Welcome to Deeper with Darshana, where we skip the small talk and dive down into what's raw and real. Pleasure, shame, justice, power, healing, liberation. These essential aspects of our human experience are among my favorite topics to explore, and I'm inviting you to join me. I'm your host, Darshana Vela, somatic sex and trauma expert and creator of the Erotic Wholeness Method. It is my belief that we are erotic by nature, and our erotic nature encompasses so much more than you might realize. Come along as I drop into curious conversations with other passionate pros and sensual seekers, and occasionally share musings of my own. Bring your curiosity, your sacred, messy, beautiful humanity, and all the parts of yourself. And let's go deeper together. How do you define enoughness for yourself? Your own sense of being enough, having enough, doing enough. So many of us are shaped by scarcity and lack and insufficiency, and it does not have to be that way. So today's conversation with my guest, Isha Vela, we are going to more widely define what enoughness and wealth can be. Just like I talk about eroticism as being so much more than sex, you're going to learn how your wealth and your enoughness can come from more sources, maybe even some different and surprising ones than you might have allowed yourself to realize. You get to hear about her journey, pieces of my own, and without a doubt, it's going to inspire you along yours. So keep listening in. Welcome back to Deeper with Darshana. I am so excited to be in conversation today with Isha Vela. Isha is a trauma psychologist, a certified somatic practitioner, wealth activator, and financial professional on a mission to help creative disruptors build generational wealth and co-create sustainable futures, which okay, I'm here for it. Yes, please. And I'm just going to dive right in because in addition to that introduction, I know that your mission, and I'm quoting you here, your mission is to code your body with sufficiency. Those who are listening, she is here to code our bodies with sufficiency so that we can live in overflow and build the legacies that we came here to co-create. There is so much packed into that sentence. Coding our bodies with sufficiency, living in overflow, and then the co-creation of legacies. I love this. So let's start with, what does it mean to code your body with sufficiency? Because I know myself here and many of us listening, like a sense of not enoughness has been so deeply encoded. Scarcity, lack, competition. These are things that many of us are so conditioned to that they can pass as completely normal. And yes. I'd love to hear your take on what it would then mean to code ourselves with sufficiency and what becomes possible when we do.
Yes, thank you for that question, Darshana. I think that, no, I believe that, so many of us not only are conditioned into scarcity within systems of oppression, right? If you want to call that like white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalistic. And we also come in through our ancestral lines. Our ancestors experienced real scarcity, right? They experienced food scarcity, other types of scarcity material. And so we have this, and we come into this, our meat suits into this earth plane with that encoding. And so I think where we are now in life, we are so abundant, right? There is abundance all around us. And so I feel like our bodies our nervous systems need to catch up to that reality and really recognize like what is available to us? What are the resources that are available to us? What can we create? Who are we, right? Like we are this idea of we are enough is like the essence of what we're here to live out and to experience, is the enoughness of life and the enoughness of ourselves. And so I help people through that process. And then also on the material side, like it hasn't been that long since women have had access to credit cards without a cosigner, or had experience really building wealth in a way, really giving ourselves to make more and build wealth and build generational wealth and really create the lives that we want to create, whether it's sustainable communities, or we want to make more donations to projects we care about, stewarding money. We haven't really come into that fully. And so I want to help people on both sides, because they really go together, because you can be wonderfully abundant in who you are, in your self-ownership, in your sovereignty, but then your bank account you may not be financially literate. You may not have anything to show for it materially, right? So we want to bring those two pieces together. And that's why I kind of went to both sides of the equation, really wanted to learn more for myself, because I haven't always been financially literate. I'm still learning, I'm always learning more. And I definitely haven't been sort of in that place of sufficiency internally. So so important to go through both sides.
I love this. And I noticed that when you pointed out that, objectively speaking, we live in a time where there is so much abundance around us, very, very different than what our ancestors might have had. Intellectually, I agree with you. I'm like, yes, statement of fact. And when I heard that come out of your mouth, I noticed a little part of me, maybe it's not even all that little, that's like, but do I really? Like, I'm still over here hustling, like life still feels really hard in certain ways. And so it really is a significant paradigm shift, I think, that we all have the opportunity to experience, to allow ourselves to open up to the idea that abundance truly is all around us. And that can sound a little like woo-woo and ambiguous, and yet it's also the truth of the matter. Like, there is more food being grown than all of us could possibly eat. There is more monetary wealth in circulation than there's ever been at any moment in time. There's more education. There's more access, right? Those are abundant.
Yes, exactly. And, like you, I've been in places where I've had to figure out where my next meal is coming from, right? I've had moments in my life where I've had to really hustle and figure out and scrap and do, jump through lots of hoops to just get basic needs met. And even in those moments, I was able to stay in that place of, like, not the scarcity story, but really like, oh my God, like, I just received this thing. And it can be the smallest thing, even having like, wow, I have heat. I have heat in my apartment, and it is really good heat. Or I have lots of warm sweaters, or I have a garden that I can take kale from and cook a meal with. Staying in that mind space, I think, is so important. And in that embodiment, connecting with it on an emotional level, I think, is the key. Is not just like, oh yeah, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, and seeing it everywhere, but really feeling it. And I think that's where the disconnect for a lot of people is.
I agree. The emotional experience is tied to the physical experience.
Yes.
And so if we really want to embody something so if we talk about emotions as a felt sense, and we talk about the embodied experience as sensation, we need to feel it emotionally to then be able to bring it into our body as a sensation of relaxation, of excitement, of spaciousness, of however it might show up in your body. So that we actually are having that lived experience rather than just like a mental construct of something.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And when we talk about abundance, I want to be really clear that part of what I feel is like what the piece around this that I think is so critical is the sense of sufficiency, right? When we talk about enoughness, we're talking about sufficiency. We're talking about like a limit, right? Because abundance feels like, wow, so much. And we do have so much. But I think that the aim is to get to a place inside where it's like, oh yeah, I don't need more. It's okay where I am, and accepting that, okay, maybe you don't have this what we think of in a materialistic world as abundant, which is feels like excess, it is really like I've learned to live with enough and I actually have very little, materially. And that feels like I feel so abundant, even having as little as I have. Other people come into my house and they're like, what? For me, it's enough. That's my sense of enough, right? So for each person, it's going to be different, that sense of sufficiency materially.
Yeah. And I think that that's important in every respect to recognize that each of us gets to decide for ourselves. What is my
Yes.
measure of sufficiency, my
Yes.
measure of enoughness, and that can look different for different people. And we don't have to justify our minimalism or our maximalism if we're, as long as we're in
Exactly.
integrity with ourselves, of course.
Yes, exactly. It is that integrity. Yes,
Right,
thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to create a bridge between this conversation that we're having thus far that has centered around monetary and financial wealth. But wealth, I personally think of as something far more than money. So in the same way that in my work I talk about eroticism, including sex, but being so much more than that.
Yes.
My understanding of wealth is that it includes money and our material and financial health and well-being, but that it's more than that. And so I'm curious to hear you riff on that a bit, especially with this idea of sufficiency, of having enoughness, not
Yeah.
just materially speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. When I think about wealth, I think, I think of it as like a huge, like pie chart, right? Like a huge pie chart, and that it's only like a monetary wealth is only the tiniest sliver of it, right?
Mm.
So it encompasses even like, um, I think about food, right? I think about like nutrient dense soil is for me like a source of abundance. Clean water is a source of wealth. Living in a neighborhood free of violence is a source of wealth. Or a pollution-free zone, right, is a source of wealth. Health definitely is a source of wealth. Relational wealth is
Big
a
time.
huge one for me.
Big time.
Yeah. So, all of those, I mean, I think there's like 8 specific sources that I think about, but then there's other things that are like when I think about the environment, there's a whole facet of those that are more specific. But yeah, like there are many facets to wealth, and in the moments that I've not been in material abundance, I've really leaned hard into those other sources of wealth to encode my body
Yeah.
with overflow, abundance, and just feeling rich on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's making me think of, I've been single for quite a while, and it's not, I don't talk often about my relationships even though in my line of work, but one of the ways that I feel really wealthy is that I have so many intimate relationships in my life, including like friendships that have so much physical affection and a really deeply sensual, attuned dynamic to them. So I get touch needs met, I get cuddles, I get sweetness and all that, regardless of if I have a lover, regardless of if I have a romantic partner, or no matter how many of them I do have at any given moment. And to me, talking about relational wealth, diversification, we use that term when we're talking about our investment portfolios, right? Well,
Yes.
what about diversifying the wealth of our relational ecosystems? I mean, and I'm saying that as like it's a slightly jokey thing, but not actually,
No, I
our
believe in that.
our cultural norm. And this, I think there's a lot of synergy between when we speak about things and look at things through the lens of sex and intimacy, and when we talk about money. Like there's a lot of similarities in the conditioning that things have to be really siloed and narrow. And I know a point that I've heard you make is that many women, many femmes, we've outsourced our financial power to a man. That could be a spouse, that could be a father, that could be the government, that could be some bro financial advisor or what have you, as opposed to having a wider system, more of an ecosystem. And we do the same thing in our intimate lives. Like, oh, I need my one person who's going to satisfy all those needs for me. And these things breed scarcity, not the sufficiency and
Absolutely.
abundance that we've been talking about here. So,
Absolutely. A perfect example of you being in scarcity is believing that you need a romantic partner in order to be fulfilled, because what you're describing to me is a deep sense of fulfillment of not only emotional needs but physical needs, right? And so by you narrowing it to like one person or even a few people and not seeing what you already have around you, that would be you being in scarcity.
yeah.
And my path, bringing in sort of the intimate piece too, I learned so much about um, abundance and the energetics of money while I was exploring polyamory.
Ooh, say more.
Yeah, so I went through a divorce in 2020, separation 2021. Sorry, yeah, 2021. And during that time, I leapt into dating because I was like, yes, I am so ready. And I knew that I was someone who wanted to be in multiple relationships. I knew that about myself. And as I began to, I'm a relationship anarchist, so I don't like put things on a hierarchy. I, give equal like weight and value to all relationships. And what I was noticing is that like, oh, I'm investing in this person, and this person may not have as much time for me as I want them to have, but I'm getting a lot of attention over here. And then maybe that attention or that investment that I'm putting over here is going to come back later, but I don't need to be fixated on that. I can get it over here. And I'm also getting something over here. And it was just coming at me in all directions. And I was like noticing sort of the flow of love. And I was like, oh, and I really began to understand in the moment that, sometimes I make a material investment over here, but I get a check in the mail from something that I hadn't even counted on. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. And it was happening was happening at the very same time as I was investing in these different relationships. They were sort of like coming back to me in non-linear ways and in ways I didn't expect. The same thing was happening with like money. And I was like, wow. And so that really, I began to understand that it's like, there was this like game or like a flow between like giving and receiving and reciprocity and being and investing and sort of loosening that grip around it needs to come from this place.
Right.
I am working this job or I am doing this coaching work, and so the money needs to come from this place. No, it can come from anywhere. Like, and why don't I just stay open to that?
I feel that.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
do.
And then in those moments that sort of primed my body to really, in those moments of financial or material scarcity, I would like have my teacup in the morning with like my yerba mate, and I would look out the window and I was like, wow, this sunrise is like filling me up with such joy and pleasure. And then I would have the tea, and I just felt the sensation of the tea. And in that moment, that was enough. I didn't need all these other things that we kind of set up as like, oh, this is what it means to be in abundance, or this is what it means to be in overflow. I was like, oh my God, I could die happy right now. I'm so full. I'm so full of life in this moment.
There's something I've heard you say a number of times, and I want to just put it under the heading of a distinction between needs and wants.
Yeah.
And we talk about this in terms of physical intimacy with another person, right? Like need would be for respect. Need would be for emotional attunement. Need would be, I want to be touched in ways that are fully consensual. Now, the wants are, I want my partner to share all of my kinks, and I want my partner to know how to whisper sweet nothings in my ear in exactly the way that does it for me. We don't need those things. We want them. And it's a beautiful thing to want what we want. Desire is the ultimate creative force.
Yeah.
And yet, what I'm hearing you speak about in this really essential way is that when we slow down and create enough presence, and we create the conditions in our nervous systems to actually be present,
Yeah.
we can open up to the fact that our needs are met and there's abundance in that. And there's beauty
Yes,
in that. I know that that's
exactly.
become a practice that I have increasingly been cultivating over the last couple of years as my business as an entrepreneur has had highs and lows. And I've been on my own roller coaster of creating a different relationship with wealth and with money in particular.
Yeah.
And to be able to really take it down to the essentials of, to your point, like, here's the sunrise and my warm cup of tea. I do know that there are people who love me, whether or not it takes the shape and the form of a romantic partner. Like I am plugged in to a web of relationship and intimacy. Like I can lean into those things and I could say, wow, my needs are so abundantly met right now.
Yes.
Thank you. Whoever it is that you listener thank, like for me, I have a strong relationship with the divine, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it's a very powerful part of my life. And I'm the gratitude for having our needs met, I think is such an integral way that we open up to more abundance and that wealth becomes
Absolutely.
more a part of our lived experience.
Yeah, I think in our culture, and I talk here about Western culture, I think we do get needs and wants confused. And when I was doing relationship coaching, I think even couples, right, in their conversation with one another, they do get those needs and wants confused because for me, a need in relationship is to grow. I want to grow. I want to evolve. All those other things, like I want my partner to see me. I want my partner to do this. Those are all extra and those are nice if they happen, but I desire to grow. And if I'm growing, that's where the fulfillment is. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that we are taught to believe that wants are needs. And we also we also we confuse them. And when people say when they say like when they talk about their material desires, I sometimes, when I'm sitting on a call with somebody, I listen to the deeper needs underneath the wants. When people say, I want more money, right? When people say they want more money, what they really want is a sense of autonomy. They want a sense of freedom. Some people, when you dig down deep enough, they want to be artists. They want to be musicians. They want to be the self that they had to leave behind as like children because they had to be practical and they had to get real jobs and do serious things. They just want to be their kid selves again. They want to play more. You know, that's what when people
I
want more
do.
money, they just want to play more.
Right. And you know, I mean, I love where you're going with this because the same holds true in a relational context.
Yeah,
Like when we actually go beneath the surface of the things that we're saying we want, what is the deeper desire there? You know,
exactly.
for autonomy, for freedom of expression, for play, for a sense
Yes.
of really being deeply known, for growth. And
Yeah,
a lot of times we lack vocabulary. We lack a nuanced vocabulary to be able to speak about the things that we're needing, wanting, experiencing. And so you speak about financial literacy, and arguably, I think there's intimacy literacy that many people need to
totally.
cultivate. And I'm curious, knowing that you mentioned it, like you had a chapter of your life coaching people around relationship. And now
Yeah.
you've got your focus on wealth and money. What are some of the things that you see as parallels?
Oh my gosh, so many. Like for me in relationship, there are certain like protective patterns we have around in relationships and then they just extrapolate to money because these are relationship patternings and so whatever we're in relationship to or with that's going to show up. For example, I had my pattern in relationships has been to um sort of be a little bit more distant. So I have a little bit more of a detachment.
Mhm.
Um, I tend to be the first to leave, whether it's a party or a relationship or a room. So it shows up in the tiniest little ways. And how that showed up with my money is that I was neglectful of my money. I kind of you know, what you talked about earlier, like I was outsourcing that to my ex-husband. And I was like, you know, I saw money as dirty and I saw relationships as messy. Oh, God, I don't want to do all that, you know? Um, it was also showing up because I wasn't fully in my body. It was kind of like I was like above it. I was above getting into the messy parts of the relationship, and I was above dealing with money. Oh my God, that's such dirty, icky stuff.
And
Right?
can I interrupt for a moment? Because
Sure.
dirty, icky, I also think that, you know, we hear those words applied to sex.
Yeah.
It also, what's coming to mind for me too, is the way that those of us who might be walking a path in life of more intentional spirituality find money beneath us. You know, like and that to me is a massive bypass in actuality, because
Absolutely.
money's currency, and I would much rather it be in the hands of people with spiritual integrity than not. But I don't want to go too far on a sidebar here. But yeah, it's like the words coming out of your mouth. I was like, right, that's how a lot of people talk about sex. That's how a lot of people talk about their bodies. Like, and yet these are integral parts of our human experience. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And my path has been like when I was learning, you know, doing my somatic certification, the big task for me was owning my place on earth, because a part of me had decided I don't actually want to be fully here. I don't actually want to be in the material plane, and that
okay.
included money. Right? So it is a bypassing. It's absolutely a bypassing. And so, you know, part of my focus is working with spiritual people, because again, like that stewardship, if we could put more money into the hands of spiritual folks who are going to really steward it with their hearts and with their pelvises,
Yes.
oh my gosh, let's get in there, you know?
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. There is this, you know, because we want to disassociate with the way that money has been used. But money is not the way it's been used. Money is its own thing. And so we have to separate money, the energy of money, from the way it's been abused.
Yes.
Right. So that's the uncolonization piece of things.
Yes. And I think it's also important to acknowledge. So here we are having a conversation about money in late stage capitalism, right?
Right.
It makes sense that many of us would have complicated feelings about it. It makes sense that if you are someone with a historically marginalized identity, so women, people of color, queer folks, you know, like that money has been weaponized in many of our experiences. But like anything, it can also become a tool. And so when I hear you speak about stewardship, I'm hearing you speak about the tool that it gets to be toward building. Can you talk a little bit more about this notion of stewardship in case that's new for somebody who's listening?
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, you know, I want to acknowledge that, you know, where we are, you know, in the historical timeline of this conversation, like there's been a lot of talk about like billionaires. There are a lot of people in power who do have a lot of money who are being extremely abusive right now to, you know, let's say nationally, right? And so there is an association of like money is being used in very abusive ways. When I think, and it's been hoarded because of scarcity, because of the sense of not enough. I need more, right? So this is where the hoarding energy comes from. When I think about stewardship, I think about like when somebody is in a sense of enoughness, they have what they need, maybe even what they want, and the rest goes out, right? Because hoarding love is like, I have my one partner and I'm jealous and I want them to look just at me. I'm fixated there, right? And that's an unhealthy, in my opinion, an unhealthy attachment. That doesn't feel like freedom to me. So freedom with the energy of money is also kind of like you let go, you let the person, you let money, you let it flow from you to you. There is a spaciousness there, right? There is an allowing there. And so if you are in that place of fulfillment and overflow, then you give, then you redistribute to communities, right? There is reciprocity. You build relationships, you build interchanges. I think about stewardship as It can be like a very concretely a portion of your finances going to um, see a portion of your profits, let's say 10% going to donations or those kinds of things. It can also mean creating partnerships with people where there are money exchanges or like susus.
What's a
Um,
susu? That's new. That's a new one to me.
Okay, susus are like basically imagine a pot of money and
Uh-huh.
everybody puts in a pot, everybody puts like a percentage of the money they make, let's say, or a percentage that they've agreed on. And then that pot of money goes to one person in the susu. And that person gets to start a business or they get to buy a home. And then people put it to the pot again and then becomes somebody else's turn.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is a wildly foreign concept to me, and I consider myself like a little more plugged into these kind of things. Because I was like, Susu, like it, I mean, what I'm hearing is a form of mutual aid in a certain regard, and
Yes.
also how we could raise capital outside of the powers that be, the systems that have been built around us, and have it be more hyper local and relational.
Absolutely. And there are cultures there are groups of people, ethnic groups that are already doing this and have been doing it for a very long time.
Oh,
And that's how they help each other get ahead.
wow.
It's a collective mindset. And when I think about stewardship, I think of it from a very collective place of like I think of like an octopus, right? Of like, like giving, receiving, I put over there and I give over here, all those types of things. So
I
that
love that.
yeah, that's
It
where
also it
yeah.
just brought up a sadness in me because it made me reflect on I'm an Ashkenazi Jew and my great grandparents were the ones who immigrated, and I remember hearing my grandmother, even my mother, talk about they would have these family meetings every week, and it was multiple families, all the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, and they'd get together to talk about whatever needed talking about, to channel resource to what needed resource, to
Yeah.
support each other. And here
Yeah.
I am just a couple generations removed, and I'm literally in such a silo of from my biological family because my parents have passed on and my brother lives on the other side of the country, and I have
Yeah.
chosen family blessedly. But yeah, in hearing you share that this is something that certain cultures have been doing for ages, it, like so many indigenous practices, I think all of us have roots in these sorts of things. And so when you hear it spoken of, like just happened for me, it's like there was like a recognition of like that's how it's supposed to be. And then there was the
Yeah.
sadness of, oh, and that's not how it is right now. But the
Right.
beauty there is potential, right?
Exactly. We can return to those practices. They're available to us. Again, we're abundant, right? They're already
Yes.
here. Yes. And we know of them on a cellular level. Like I think that a lot of us really crave those types of community. We crave community. We crave connection. We crave support. We don't know always like how to get it, right? We
Right,
don't have the language and we don't have the literacy to know
right.
those things exist. We can create them, right? In the ways that we live now, it's more like you said, siloed. We can create them anyway.
It's true. And it's funny, this idea of community, another friend and colleague of mine, I was reading something she wrote, and I think she was paraphrasing somebody else by saying that many of us yearn for community, and yet we find ourselves in audiences.
Yes.
And I think that says a lot even about our relational lives or wider sense of belonging in circles of community. It's like we want so much to be a thread woven in among threads. And yet what we
Yes.
often find ourselves doing is looking from like an outsider's view, observing, digesting other people's experiences instead of participating.
Mm-hmm.
And money can be a way that does change that, right? Like when you're in
Absolutely.
abundance, like you actually get to be, and you use this word with a lot of intention, co-creating whatever it is that you're going to be co-creating, the legacy building,
Exactly.
the life, the experiences,
Yes.
the stew.
Yeah. And on a really small scale, like just living here in Indonesia, like I've talked to several people who want to start businesses. And I was like, send me your business plan, like I can fund it. Or, being in abundance has allowed me to tip people very well, because I know that the drivers, they don't get paid very much and they do a lot for me. And so I'm able to tip them like twice the amount that they would ask to be paid, and it's like there's an appreciation. I get that back, right? That reciprocity happens in the service and in the appreciation, right? So I get to take care of people, and it feels really good. And then I get taken care of too. It's just like it's like an acknowledgement. I feel like when we really get down to it, the energy of appreciation, I think, is really the essence of what I hold. And when I think about encoding, just appreciating life, appreciating every moment. Like even in the times in my life where I have felt like, man, this shit feels real hard right now, like humaning, it's like, oh, I can still find the appreciation and the pleasure in living, even when things feel crunchy. One of the conversations that I had with my ancestors when I began to the journey of money, because part of my marriage breaking up was financial. And I said in that moment, like, I remember having a moment in my bedroom where I was like, I am not going to allow my children to inherit the ancestral money trauma that I'm seeing very clearly, right? Because I was seeing like the ways that developmental wounding show up in money relationship with money. And I was like, I'm stopping, I'm ending this, right? It ends with me. And so that's where I committed to this money journey and conversations with my ancestors about it. And what I received from them, right, was that they talked about the abundance of life and really they gave me permission to be like, you know what? Pleasure, find your pleasure. So we come back again to this piece around sexuality, eroticism, and they invited me to find the eroticism in life, but that I could also do it through like material pleasure. Like I could like have like through the way that I used money to use money to experience life and to have full eroticism in life.
Yeah, eroticism as vibrancy, vitality, aliveness. So
Yeah.
it includes sex, sure, but that's just one slice of the pie in the same way money is one slice of the wealth pie, right?
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you and how gorgeous that this was a missive from your ancestors, like find the
Yes.
pleasure in this.
Yes. And travel and adventure is part of my eroticism. Like
Right.
I get turned on by like, let's go hang gliding.
And you're literally world schooling your children right now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
all traveling the world. Like, I mean, you are the living embodiment of this. You walk your talk.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that is where I find my aliveness. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, that aliveness is fundamentally that is our creative force, which is to say it's what allows us to create. Money
Yes.
then becomes a tool for that creative
Yes.
process.
Yes. For me, it is absolutely neutral. And then whether you want to use it to hoard or to give to, that's really up to you. And that's where sort of our individual inner work comes in, is like, we decide, every individual person decides how they're going to express love, how they're going to use money, how they're going to steward, right? And that's where each individual person's inner work counts, right? When we come into the community, one person's scarcity can sort of like ruin the whole
Oh yeah.
thing,
Oh
right?
yeah. 100%. And I mean, we're talking monetary scarcity. We're talking scarcity around intimacy. I've been in those
Yes.
dynamics where you're around someone who's really like tight and clingy and hoarding of attention or affection. That's
Yes.
not a pleasant experience to be in.
No, it doesn't work. And so people are not in that vibrational agreement or like agreement.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. You notice it. And I think that's where, we're all sort of, you are on a mission to support people and getting to a place where right, where they have the language and they can tap into that eroticism that is so much bigger than just sexuality. And for me, helping people tap into the wealth that is financial and so much more than that, right? There's so many parallels.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. And some people will even say that it is one. It is one.
I could wrap my head around that.
Yeah, yeah.
So Isha, for someone listening who's like, okay, like there's resonance for me here. I sense that I've got some opportunity to shift my relationship to abundance, to money, to wealth. How do you point people who are just beginning to take some steps on that journey? What would your advice be for them?
I think, my journey was my journey. People approach it in very different ways. For me, I think, you talk a lot about slowing down.
Yeah.
And I think that it is really important for us just in general to slow down and to really begin to notice, right? Because noticing is like that first, like that awareness piece. Notice where the abundance is.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you would notice where the support and love is versus where you want it to be. Notice where the abundance already is. Look at all of the beauty that's already around you. Look at where you are supported and where you are held and where you are cared for. So just begin to notice. And, when it comes to the financial piece, a lot of people come to me, maybe they haven't done any money work. And through our financial planning aspect, enter the energetic piece more, right? To get the support in that way. So people can come at it in lots of different directions. But I think for the person who is really just wanting to tap into that inner wealth is to slow down and just begin to notice, take inventory. You don't even need to do a gratitude practice, but just notice, even if it's from a very neutral place. Oh, yeah. Oh, there. Oh, and there. Oh, wow. Look at that. And then begin to have the emotional experience of like, let yourself take it in, like really breathe it in, let it like move it through your body, like your blood moves through your body. Just let it circulate, right? And be with it, feel the emotions. Sometimes during the fall and on the East Coast, there is so much beauty that I notice the place where I don't take it in fully because I just can't. It would just pop me open. I would just explode just seeing the fall foliage. So I can notice, and I was like, can I take it in just a little bit deeper this season?
I love that. And for those who may not be familiar with the northeastern United States in fall, as a New Yorker, I can tell you it is stunning.
Spectacular.
Oh, absolutely stunning.
So I think that's kind of like a first step. And for other people, the first step is just getting a freaking financial strategy session. Like just sit down with someone.
Yeah.
We offer our strategy sessions on a complimentary basis because we know there are barriers to entry. There are so many psychological barriers, but in the traditional financial services industry, there are monetary financial barriers to entry. Yeah. A lot of the ways that it's been set up is like, you need to have $500,000 in investable assets. We don't have a financial requirement and we don't need you to pay us. So there's no reason you can't do it.
That's incredible. And in the same way that when it comes to intimacy, to relationships, to sexuality, I'm up on my soapbox, like, get a guide. You don't need to do this by yourself.
Exactly.
Why on earth would one of the most important aspects of your life be something that you don't seek expertise in? Same here. And I think,
exactly.
And I'll speak for myself. I know for a very long time, I had so much avoidance and shame and fear around money that the thought of being helped was like 10 steps ahead of where I was. And yet I now know, having done a lot of work to resolve those experiences, how integral it is to be well supported. So the fact that you have this gorgeous offering and complimentary strategy sessions, none of the financial requirements, like y'all who are listening, take Isha up on this, and I will absolutely be linking all of this in the show notes. Is there anything that you want to say about where folks can find you? I know you've got your podcast and other places.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for asking. The focus is really the podcast and the YouTube page. I'm really migrating off of social media a little bit and really focusing my energy on YouTube because I want there to be more like long form content, really get like deeper into stuff. But people can always find all of that on my webpage, www.ishavela.com.
Thank you, Isha. Oh my God, this has been such a wealth of information for me. Thank you, thank you. Is there any last little nugget, any last little deeper dive that you want to leave folks with? It could be something we already touched on that warrants a little more emphasis. It could be something new.
I feel like nothing's coming to me right now.
That's okay.
Yeah. There's so much, but it's kind of like, oh my God, what, the most important thing, I'm just like freezing up right now, thinking about something like, oh, this really important nugget. But yeah, I think that just to do it now, to, people often procrastinate when, with money. We delay. And this is not a time to delay. Like with where things are politically, economically, it's really not a time to delay. So it's now.
All right, listeners, I'm going to book my call with Isha. I hope you're going to do the same. It has been such a pleasure to be in this conversation with you. Thank you for sharing your experience and your wisdom. And for those of you listening, if you loved what you heard, please leave us a review, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, share this with someone in your life who needs to hear this advice, which probably is almost everybody. And I will see you back here for our next episode.